Hello and welcome to a new knitting pattern tutorial from Colibri by Johanna. I am Johanna, I am wearing my jean scarf. I am holding a second jean scarf here, and today we are going to knit this beautiful and cute and fast little accessory. The jean scarf is such a fun, cute and rewarding project, and you have so many options concerning color combinations and yarn combinations. For the first sample I am wearing here, I used Cardigan Cashmere Classic in the shades Sakura and Hermes. And I used exactly 2 balls of each color, so we had 4 balls of Cardigan Cashmere in total to work up this cute little scarf, and it's still very light because of the cashmere yarn. And of course it's incredibly soft and it's such a pleasure to wear it. And additional, the bright color palette of Cardigan Cashmere has every possible color combination in stock, and for every individual taste there will be the perfect color combination. For my second sample of the jean scarf, you can see here, I used a totally different yarn combo I had in stash for quite a while now. The lace part was worked with Roma by Lamana Yarns in the shade Muscat, which is a silk cashmere blend, and it's especially light, so it weighs nearly nothing. I think one skein with 160 meters has only 20 grams. For the contrast color, I used Arroyo from Malabrigo Yarns in the shade Bobby Blue, which is a decay weight yarn. And I bought the skein in our holidays in Portugal, in Lisbon. And I think it has finally found the perfect design to be used, as it will always remind me of the waves in Portugal and our holidays there back in 2024. This is our scarf. All you need to work up your version of the jean scarf is the written pattern, which is of course available on my website and on Ravelry. You will need the yarn and your knitting needles, and then some time and a little bit of patience to work up your jean scarf. To make things as smooth as possible, I made up this little video when working on my second sample of the jean scarf to make it accessible to a wide range of knitters with different knitting skills. And I hope you will find it helpful to watch this video when working up your jean scarf according to the written pattern available on my website and on Ravelry. Just a little overview about the setup of the scarf. We have a very classic triangular scarf shape, which is worked with 4 increases in every right side row. The increases take place after the first stitch, before the middle stitch, after the middle stitch, and before the last stitch. And these 4 increases always take place in the right side row. In the wrong side rows, there aren't any increases. You start to work in a section in the main color with lace pattern, and then you alternate the lace pattern sections with garter stitch sections in the contrast color. And this is alternated until you have worked all repetitions shown on your knitting chart, and then you will work a knit border in the contrast color around your triangular scarf, and you pick up stitches on this side of your triangular scarf in the contrast color as well, and then you bind off the stitches in the contrast color with an applied E-cord edging, which makes the perfect finishing of the design. During the test knit, a test knitter of mine, Sonia, had the idea that this scarf might be the perfect advent calendar project, as you have 23 stripes, which can be worked in your advent colors, maybe from last year, maybe from this year, and the last advent skein can be used for the E-cord edging around the scarf. So maybe this is an idea if you want to have some inspiration how to use your yarny, woolly advent calendars. I have talked a lot, so now let's get started and work up your version of the jean scarf. We are now ready to start knitting our jean scarf. I have already started, as you can see. And as the beginning might be a little bit trickier, I will show you how to knit the first 6 rows in the main color. You can see them here, step by step, so that you will have the smooth start possible in knitting up your own version of the jean scarf. You can use your favorite cast on method. I mostly use a long tail cast on, and we have to cast on 3 stitches in total. And now in the next row, it's the first wrong side row pictured on the knitting charts in your pattern. We will place stitch markers to mark the middle stitch, as this is an important orientation to work the increases for the triangular shape of the scarf. So get out your stitch markers. I am mostly using stitch markers of leftover yarn in a different color, so that it's pretty obvious what is stitch marker and what is stitch. The edge stitches are always knit stitches, meaning they are knitted in right side rows and in wrong side rows. Now place the first stitch marker. The middle stitch is purled. We are now in a wrong side row. And when working a section in the wave lace pattern, you always purl the stitches in the wrong side rows except the edge stitches. Place the second stitch marker and knit the edge stitch. We now have knitted 3 stitches. We have marked the middle stitch with stitch markers, and in the next row, it will be a right side row. We will increase 2 stitches on each side of the middle stitch, meaning we will increase 4 stitches in total, so that we have 7 stitches on our knitting needles and not only 3 stitches anymore. Knit the edge stitch. Pick up the cross strand from front to back. Work a left leaning increase. The yarn remains on your knitting needle, and work a right leaning increase out of the same strand. Now you work the middle stitch. It's knitted, and we are now repeating the instructions. Take up the yarn from front to back, work a left leaning increase, and then work a right leaning increase out of the same strand. And now knit the edge stitch, and now you have in total 7 stitches on your knitting needles. In the next wrong side rows, we will purl all stitches except the edge stitches. They will be knitted, and we will place stitch markers after and before the edge stitches. Place the stitch marker, purl these 2 stitches, purl the middle stitch, and purl the next 2 stitches, and place a stitch marker before the last stitch. Okay. Knit the edge stitch, slip the stitch marker, make a left leaning increase,
knit 2 stitches, make a right leaning increase, knit the middle stitch, slip the marker always, work a left leaning increase, and work a right leaning increase. We have now increased again 4 stitches. We have worked an increase after the first stitch, a left leaning increase. We have worked a right leaning increase before the middle marked stitch, a left leaning increase after the middle marked stitch, and a right leaning increase before the last stitch. Now we are working the wrong side row, where we purl all stitches except the edge stitches. And we have worked our first 6 rows and established the stitches where we have to work the increases for our triangular scarf pattern. As you can see here, we will now start to work 6 rows in garter stitch in our contrast color. Of course, we will work the same increases like in the section in the main color, meaning we are working a left leaning increase after the first stitch, a right leaning increase before the middle stitch, a left leaning increase after the middle stitch, and a right leaning increase before the last stitch. So we are knitting the stitches in the right side row in the contrast color, working the increases, and in the wrong side row we are knitting the stitches as well to create the garter stitch section. So we are just relaxing here, we are knitting 6 rows, and the middle marked stitches worked in garter stitch as well, as you can see here. In the sections in the main color it's worked in stockinette stitch, and in sections in the contrast color it's worked in garter stitch. Knit the first stitch, slip the stitch marker, and now work your first increase. Knit all stitches. The second increase, work the middle marked stitch. The third increase, and the fourth increase. In the next wrong side rows, just knit all stitches. And now you will have to work 4 more rows in garter stitch, and then we will meet again. We have now worked 3 rows in garter stitch, and we have worked the increases as I have shown you before in every right side row, and now we are ready to change to the main color again, and I'm now going to show you how to work the required techniques of the wave lace pattern, how to carry the yarn along so that you will need to weave in as less ends as possible. Yes, and I think that's it, and then you will only follow the knitting charts provided in your pattern until you have reached the desired length of your scarf, and then we will catch up again and work the applied I-cord edging along all sides of our scarves. To make sure that the edging is looking as neat as possible and that there are as less ends as possible left to weave in, you can carry the yarn of the unused strand along. Meaning you are always wrapping the yarn of the unused color around the used color before starting to knit the next right side row. And this will create this edging. It will look much nicer when we have worked the applied E-cord edging in the end. But for now, this means you won't have any ends left to weave in, as the yarn is always carried along. Here's our strand in the main color, and here's our strand in the contrast color, and we are just wrapping the yarn in the contrast color around the strand in the main color before we are starting to work the row in the main color. We are now knitting 2 stitches together. And again. And you can choose if you want to work an SKPO, slip 1 knitwise, knit 1 stitch and pull the slipped stitch over the stitch worked, or if you prefer to knit 2 stitches together through the back loop. This will lead pretty much to the same result. It might look slightly little bit different. It will lead you to the same outcome, so you are most welcome to work the method you prefer most for this way of decreases. The yarn is wrapped from front to back around the needle, and then you knit the next stitch. Wrap the yarn from front to back onto your needle and knit the next stitch. And now we purl all stitches except the edge stitches, meaning the first and the last stitch of the wrong side rows are always knit stitches, and the rest of the stitches are purled. Of course, only when working a section in the wave lace pattern. Only there the stitches in the wrong side rows are purled. We have now worked all repetitions of our wave lace pattern, and there are so many stitches on our knitting needles that I cannot unfold it in its total beauty, but this doesn't matter, as we will now work the applied I-cord edging in the contrast color along all edges of our scarf. You can already cut the yarn of the main color because you won't need it. You will just need your contrast color to work the E-cord. Of course, you can work the E-cord in the main color as well. This is totally up to you. I'm going to cut the contrast color as well to make the E-cord as neat as possible. If you are able to work the E-cord without cutting the yarn and doing it as neat as possible, you're most welcome to do it, but I prefer cutting the yarn. We are now going to cast on the 3 E-cord stitches. You can use any cast on method you like. I'm mostly using a long tail cast on. And now we will work the row which was worked in wave lace pattern in the main color before. This row, this right side row, will be now knitted with a contrast color. And we knit only this row and we do not work any increases. We just knit the stitches. We have now knitted all stitches in the contrast color, and now we will pick up stitches with the contrast color along this edge of our scarf and along this edge of our scarf. So all three edging of our scarf will then be surrounded by knit stitches in the contrast color, and then we are ready to bind them off with the applied E-cord edging in the contrast color. Let's pick up the stitches. The most difficult part is to pick up the stitches along the edges, and I recommend to pick up more stitches than you usually would pick up, so that the edging will still look nice and sharp and defined. So I picked like 3 or 4 stitches on the small step of the pattern. And then I recommend to pick up 2 stitches per 3 rows. This is the neatest technique in comparison to my knitting tension. We have now finished picking up all our stitches along the edges of our scarf. Now we can cut the yarn and start working the E-cord edging. Therefore, we have already cast on the 3 stitches here so that we can start directly working the E-cord. I'm always cutting the yarn. Of course, I know that there are knitters out there who prefer to not cut the yarn, so that's entirely up to you. But at least in my experience, cutting the yarn always leads to the neatest result, even if you have more ends to be weaved in. So knit the first stitches, the first 2 stitches. And then the third E-cord stitch is knitted together with the first scarf stitch through the back loop. We have to remove our stitch marker if you haven't done it already. And now you slip back the E-cord stitches onto the knitting needle in your left hand. And now you just repeat those steps until you have bound off all stitches. It's a little bit fiddly in the beginning, but then it will be smooth sailing. Keep an eye out for your knitting tension so that the first stitch won't get too loose. And then you will have the most beautiful edging. You will need your darning needle. Pull the yarn through. And now insert your needle through the last stitch. And now insert your needle through the first stitch. Now through the second, and here as well. And now we just need to weave in the ends. And then we will finally wash and block our jean scarves.